Mr. Sarrisman went upstairs, feeling both anxious and annoyed, and he knocked loudly on Miss Rottenmeier's door. She woke with a start to hear him say, "Please get up quickly and come to the dining room. We have to make preparations for our journey." She looked at her clock. Its hand pointed to 1/2 past hour. She had never got up so early in her life. What could have happened? She was in such a state of curiosity and excitement that she hardly knew what she was doing and kept looking for garments which she had already put on. Stressman then went along the passage and pulled vigorously at the bells which communicated with the rooms where the servants slept. Sebastian, John, and Tenet all leaped out of bed and threw on their clothes just anyhow, thinking of ghosts must have attacked their master and that he was calling for help. They sped to the dining room one after the other, all rather disheveled, and were taken aback to find Mr. Cheston looking as brisk and cheerful as usual. Not all, not at all, as though he had seen a ghost. John was dispatched to fetch the carriage and horses at once in it to waken Heidi and get her ready for a journey. Sebastian was sent to fetch Betty from the house where she worked. Meanwhile, Miss Rothermere completed her toilet, though she had put on her cap the wrong way round, so that from a distance it looked as though she were walking backwards. But Mr. Sarrisman rightly attributed this to her having been disturbed so early. He wasted no time on explanation, but told her to find a trunk immediately and pack all the Heidi's belongings in it. Put some of Clara's things in it as well, he added. The child must be well provided for. Hurry now, there's no time to lose. Miss Rothermere was so astonished that she just stood and stared at him. She had been expecting him to tell her some terrible story about the ghost which she would not have minded hearing by daylight. Instead, she was met with the extremely business like a rather inconvenient order. She could not understand it and simply wanted blankly for some sort of explanation. But Mr. Sarrisman left her without saying anything further and went to the Clara's bedroom. As he expected, she had been awakened by all the commotion and was most anxious to know about what had happened. So she sat down at her beside and told her the whole story, ending up, "Dr. Clausen is afraid Heidi's health was suffer and says she might even go up on the roof in her sleep. You can understand how dangerous that would be, so I have made up my mind that she must go home at once. We can't risk anything happening to her, can we?" Clara was very distressed at this news and tried hard to make her father change his mind. But he stood firm, only promising that if she was sensible and did not make a fuss, he would take her to Switzerland the following year. And seeing there were no two ways about it, she gave in, but she begged that as a small consolation, Heidi's trunk should be brought to her room to be packed, so that she could put in some nice things which Heidi would like. This her father willingly agreed. By this time that he had arrived and was wondering uneasily when she had been set for such an unearthly hour. Mr. Salesman repeated to her what he had learned about Heidi's condition. "I want you to take her home at once, this very day." He said that he was very upset, remembering how Uncle Ab had told her to show. Mr. Salmon then went along in the passage and pulled vigorously at the bells which communicated with the rooms where the servants slept. Sebastian, John, and Tenet all leaped out of the bed and threw on their clothes just anyhow, thinking of the ghost must have attacked their master and that he was calling for help. They sped to the dining room one after the other, all rather disheveled, and were taken aback to find the Mr. Sarvis looking at as brisk and cheerful as usual, and not all as he thought he had seen a ghost, dispatched to fetch the carriage and horses at once. Then to waken Heidi and get her ready for a journey, Sebastian was sent to fetch Betty from the house where she worked. Mr. Rothermere was so astonished that he stood and stared at him. He had been exciting him to tell her some terrible story about the ghost. Mr. Sarrisman left her without saying anything further and went to the Clara's bedroom. As he expected, she had been awakened by all the commotion and was most anxious to know what had happened, so she sat down beside and told her the whole story, ending up, "Clausen is afraid Heidi's health has suffered and says he might even go Heidi's health after her suffered upon the roof in her sleep. Can understand how generous that would be, so I have made up my mind that she must go home at once. You can understand how generous would be. Clara was very distressed at this news and tried hard to make her father change his mind. But he stood firm, only promising that if was sensible and did not make a fuss. Take her Switzerland the following year. Then, seeing there were no two ways about it, saw it now, but of course now. That time was the sunlight evening up in the corner. Meanwhile, Hedy was waiting in her bedroom, dressed in her Sunday frock and wondering what was going to happen. Tin had considered her so far beneath her notice that she never threw her two words where one would do, and she had simply wakened her, told her to dress, and had taken her clothes out of the wardrobe when Mr. Sesper came back to the dining room with his letter. Breakfast was on the table where the child he asked, and Harry was at once fetched and came in, giving her her usual good morning. Well, child, is that you all have to say? He inquired. She looked at him questioningly. I do believe nobody's told you, he said with a smile. You are going home today. Home? He gasped, so overwhelmed that for the moment she could hardly breathe. Well, aren't you pleased? Oh, yes, I am, said fervently. And a color came into her cheeks. That's right. Now you must eat a good breakfast. And he took his place at the table aside to her to join him. She tried hard. You must eat a good breakfast, and he took in place. Signed her to join him. She tried hard but couldn't swallow even a morsel of dreaming, and might not find herself presently standing at the front door again in the night time. Sent Sebastian to take plenty of food with him. Mr. Sarasman said to Miss Rottenmeier as the lady came into the room, the child is not eating anything at all. And that is not to be wondered at. He turned to Heidi, not go to Clara, my child, and stay with her until the carriage arrives. That was just what Heidi wanted to do. And she found Clara with a big trunk open beside her. Come and look at the things I have put in for you. Her face again in upon the mountain. To have to take Heidi back to him like his father. Please do excuse me, she said glibly, but it is not possible for me to go today nor yet tomorrow. We are very busy and I really could not even ask for the day of just now. Indeed, I don't quite know when I could manage it. Mr. Salma saw through the excuse and sent her away without another word. He told Sebastian instead of you'll take the child as far as the vessel today, he said, and go on with her home tomorrow. I'll give you a letter for her grandfather, so there will be no need for you to explain anything, so you can come straight back here when you get to Basel. Go to the hotel whose name I have written on this visiting card. I am well known there, and when you show it, you will be given a good room for the child, and they'll find a room for you too. And now listen to me, he went on. This is very important. Must want to make sure all the windows in a room are shut securely so that she can't open them. Then once she's in bed, you are to lock her bedroom door on the outside. She walks in her sleep, and in a strange house it might be very dangerous if she went downstairs. Try to open the front door. Do you understand? So that what it is, exclaimed Sebastian as the truth suddenly dawned upon him. Yes, that was it. You are a great coward, and you can tell John he's another. You made fine fools of yourself, all of you. And with that, Mr. Sersman went to his study to write to Uncle Al.